Welcome. I'm so happy to see all your faces in this session. I hope that you enjoy learning about a project that we started last year in Austin ISD. We actually have some students that are going to share some information with you all. But I'll start with introductions. So my name is Cody Fernandez, and I'm the Director for Secondary Multilingual Education in Austin ISD. And I have Cody.
Hi everybody, I'm Janeth Medrano. I'm the coordinator for Multilingual Education, so I support ESL and dual language programming at middle school and high school.
So we're going to share with you today about a project, again, that we started last year. It ended up kind of went through a lot of different iterations of names. I think the final name was actually Empowerment Project and Empowerment Conference, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that looked like at the end. But it was really focused on our groups of students that are at International High School. In Austin ISD, we have a lot of students that come to us as the first time in U.S. schools, coming from another country. And our International High School specifically is designed for students that are, you can see here, it's a 2-year program. They're 14 to 16 years old. And they enroll at International High School, which is located at Northeast Early College High School, so they share a campus. And they're real focused on making sure that the students are learning and acquiring English in the fastest way possible while also getting the credits that they need to get through high school. And so we worked, this was definitely a cross-collaboration project. So we had staff from International High School. We had 3 of our teachers that were involved, our administration from International High School, our team, the Secondary Multilingual Education team. We worked with an outside consultant, Dr. Jose Salaya. If you've never seen any of the work that he does some really great stuff. Specifically, he is an immigrant himself. He came here as a middle school student from Honduras. And has a very beautiful story. And really his message is about the power of education and how it can transform the lives of everyone, but especially students that are immigrants coming into the country, and how just it can shift the entire family story for someone. And he's an example of that. We had 30 10th grade students. So remember, the students stay at International High School for 2 years. So we selected those students that had been in the program for this. They were in their 2nd year. Many of the students were definitely student leaders already. They were part of the student council that International High School has, and so they were selected. And so we had 7 in-person sessions with those students, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what those sessions looked like and what the focus was. Our goals. So oftentimes when our students come in from other countries, the reality in education is that they can be seen from a deficit perspective, right? Because they don't know English yet. They are often coming in with at least another language, many languages. We have many multilingual students that come to our school, so they already know other languages, but they don't know the key language here, which is English. So oftentimes, there's a perspective that can be taken that they're not ready, they can't, and so on our team, we don't believe that in any way, and we knew that the International High School team did not either. So we knew that there's this potential that's really untapped. Students that have recently arrived to our country, how can we make sure that they have access to the information about our college and career opportunities in high school and beyond? And we wanted to make sure that, because our education systems are quite complex, right? However, in Austin ISD, we're very fortunate. We have a ton of different programs between early college, high school, our IBC programs, any of our CTE pathways. We have a lot of ways for students to be college and career ready, but the question was, are we making sure that these students that are coming in as 9th graders, do they know what's available to them? Because next year, this year, the year that we're in now, the students go back to their comprehensive campus. They leave International High School and they go to their comprehensive campus, and most of our campuses are early college high school campuses and have IBC programs. We wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what they could do on those campuses, what was available to them, and if they wanted to transfer somewhere else, that they could, right? And so we also wanted to make sure to build leadership and self-advocacy for our students, because again, International High School is a very small community. We have, I think they usually have about 300. At a larger time, they might have 375, 400 students, but it's a relatively small campus, right, within a larger campus. When students return to their comprehensive campuses, they're often just in a sea of many students, right? And so we want to make sure that they knew what they could possibly have access to, so that they could go to their counselors and say, no, I want to be in this. I want to advocate for myself. This is something I'm interested in. So we wanted to build those leadership skills and the self-advocacy skills for our students and make sure that they were empowered by the fact that they were becoming bilingual if they weren't already, right? And so again, just really tapping into, I think our keynote this morning talked about cultural capital. That's a big piece. When we talk about our emergent bilingual students, that's often a piece that's forgotten, right? Because again, our school system is very focused on they must learn English, they must meet these benchmarks, and that's okay, but we can't forget the value that they're bringing to our schools and to our classrooms. So that was really the emphasis of the project. So this is just kind of a brief timeline. We started in September, and we ended in May, and so I'm gonna show you a little bit more depth of those days that we had together in the work.
Can I add, so a big part of this, we didn't have this like beautifully laid out this way when we started the project, right? A big part of it was empowering them, right? So that means involving them, giving them a voice at the table. And so we had to go through that productive struggle with them and figure it out, like, you know, what do you want? What do you want to know about? How can you really receive this information, right? Because us as adults who are around education all the time, we have an idea of how to present it to them, but they may give us more insight on how they will receive it better, right? And so it was kind of difficult as a leadership team to come together and plan for it, because we're like, what's next? Like, we don't know. And so this looks beautiful now, but when we started, it was like it was kind of scary, especially as people who we like to have things ready and structure and plans. And so to go in there and not really know what to do or how to follow up or what's next was kind of scary. But again, it goes back to how valuable that productive struggle was, because we involved their voices, because we involved the students, and they really felt heard throughout that process.
It was very organic. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Very organic and very messy, and also, yes, very uncomfortable at times, because we didn't have, we knew what our goals were, but we didn't have that clear plan. And we wanted the voices of the students to be heard also. So, yes, it does look nice and neat, but it was a little bit like this the whole way through. So our first toolkit, and this was the first time that we met with Dr. Salaya. He came in, and the focus was storytelling to story making. And it really was about relationship building, because we knew we were going to be with him for the year. We were going to have him come to work with us and the students. And we wanted to make sure that they felt like a community, and that they felt that they could trust him. And so it was really focused on, and much aligned with what we talked about this morning and what this summit is about, right? Storytelling, and really making sure that we're sharing our story, and the students had a chance to share their stories, and begin to see the power of their stories, right? And so we did some goal setting and talked about where they had come from and where they wanted to go. We also began to talk about the college essay prompt. We did a lot of work with the students to really dispel this myth that, it's this big essay that you've got to write and it's so difficult. It's really, he really focused on the fact you have power in your stories. Tell your story. This is what you write about in your college essay. And the fact that you have this, that you're bringing to our high school campuses and college campuses eventually, that is something that is powerful. Focus on it, right? So the kids got an opportunity to begin to think about that. Our next toolkit, we took the students to Clifton Center, and so That's a special, yeah, that's right there. So that's a very unique and special campus, and the beauty of it is that it's right down the road from International High School. And so we already had many of our students at International High School that were going there. It is a CTE campus, right? So it's where students can go and begin to learn those career skills. And so that was kind of a fairly recent partnership, I think, with IHS and Clifton. And so we wanted to really build upon that and make sure the kids knew what that option was. And not only like, this is where it starts, but how do we build the pathway? Because if you work in CTE, you know we want them to go through that pathway and continue, right? So we had our session at Clifton. The students were able to observe different classrooms, learn about different programs that were offered at that campus. Again, we went back into that college essay. We talked about financial aid. So Dr. Zelaya shares a lot of different resources for students. As you may or may not know, in Texas, our students do not have to have documentation to attend college, right? So that's a beautiful thing, because that's not the case in every state. But students don't often know that, right? And they also don't know that there are many, many resources for scholarships and grants that are out there that they might not always learn about in high school, right? And so we wanted to make sure and begin to provide like lists of resources and ways for them to, because oftentimes when we would talk about college, they're like, well, it's too expensive, right? It's too much. I'm not going to do that, right? No, but you have these opportunities. And so we wanted to make sure that they had, again, it's about advocacy, empowerment. We also, in that time frame, we invited our early college high school team and our P-Tech team and our CTE industry-based certification team, again, to make sure that yes, we're talking about college, and yes, we want you to go on to college, but what can you do now in Austin ISD? What's available to you as a student here? So they came, and that was a really powerful day. I don't think I was there that day, but I heard from the students and from the staff that were there how much the kids were really interested in, number one, where am I going next year, and what can I possibly do on that campus? And so that was a really great opportunity to get a preview. So then our toolkit 3, we went to ACC, and that was a great day. I have not been to the Highland ACC campus, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. The kids really had a great time. We went to ACC, and then we came back after that visit to ACC, and they wrote a letter, again, really thinking about the future, write a letter to your future self. Then walked through, like, what are some tips that they can begin to think about to prepare for college? So now you've seen ACC as a possibility. What would that look like, and how can you begin to prepare now as a 10th grader for college? And then we talked about, of course, the benefits, and this was really throughout, the benefits of being multilingual and bilingual. Because remember, our students that are coming from other countries, they are becoming bilingual. We often focus a lot on dual language, and dual language is really great, but we have kids that are in our ESL programs that are also becoming bilingual, right? And so we need to honor that and recognize that. And so that was a big part of the conversations that we had. We talked more about financial aid, and then in that evening we had a parent meeting. We invited the parents of the students that we were working with. You can see there's a picture there of an activity that he did. It was a pretty small group, but it was a really powerful evening. We had dinner together. We shared a lot of information, and this is the piece that I'll talk a little bit about moving forward, but this is the piece that I am hopeful that we can build on this year as we plan for this year and the future, is this parent piece, because it's also very powerful and necessary. We want our parents to know so that they can continue to encourage their students, right? So we had some former IHS students come and conduct a panel. So the beauty of International High School is that it is a community, so much so that the principal that is there has been there for many, many years. She was an assistant principal and then became the principal. She has at least 2 teachers that I know of that were former students at International High School and now are teaching. And so, again, just this idea, the kids, it's the power of what happens there. They really do feel connected. And so we had the opportunity to bring back these young people that had been former students at International High School that are now either in college. One was at UT, one was a business owner, another student, she owns her own baking company. Just these kids that have gone on to do great things that were former students. They started at International High School. And they shared their struggles, right? Like, how did it feel when I left International High School? And then how did it feel when I went on out of high school to do other things? And so that was also a very powerful day. The kids connected. As soon as we were done with the panel, they were all like just around everyone wanting to know more information. It was, to see someone who looks like you, sounds like you, who lived some of the same experiences being successful, there's no words, there's nothing that can describe the power of that. And then we began to plan for our end of year conference. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but before I do, we had a service learning. This was something that we decided, we looked around the campus and decided that we would have a plant project. There were some old planters that were kind of funky and sad looking, and so we decided, the principal said, I'm going to buy some new planters the kids are going to plant. And so I didn't really know what to expect, but we learned that was like a really, anytime you get kids working on something together, like lots of things just come out, they share a lot of information, digging in the dirt. I think, I like gardening, so I'm like, yes, that brings the good stuff out, right?
And that actually came from the students, right? Remember, I mentioned they were kind of helping us steer the ship. This came, the kids wanted to do some kind of service project. But also something really neat that happened that day is that Dr. Salaya brought in, well, the custodian came in to kind of give us some said, lay down the law, like don't touch my stuff, but also whatever. And, but he took that opportunity to empower her, right? And so she spoke to the kids about what she does for the school and the pride that she feels for the work that she does for that school. And I really felt like she was radiating that pride to the kids so that they could also walk away being proud of their school, of their campus, and taking care of it, telling them, guiding them, saying like, hey, if you drop something, pick it up even if you didn't drop it, because guess what, this is your school and it represents you and it's up to you to take care of it. And so it was a really neat moment of like, she was almost like Mama Bear, but like regañando, like scolding them, but also at the same time the pride that she felt for the school was really. I also did want to add that like through all these toolkits and all these days that they were doing these different activities and going to visit campuses and talking to panels, the lessons they were learning also involved the 4 domains, right? Like the kids were developing language while they were learning very relevant and real life world material. And so it's a really great example of how we can bring, it just is easily transferable to the classroom, right? Because throughout these whole days, they were listening, they were talking, they were writing, and they were speaking. So it was a really great curriculum, basically.
So we went to UT, and I should mention that the students did also go to Texas State. I don't know, in my brain it always be Southwest, but Texas State, they also did do that as a student council. That was something that they developed, and they took all of the 10th graders went to that visit. But we did also go to UT and the College of Bilingual Education. And so we were lucky to hear from some current students through their BASO organization. And they shared, these are all folks who often, many of them had similar stories to students, right? And many of them also said, I never thought I would be a teacher. And in fact, some of our professors that were with us were like, I never thought I would be a teacher. That was not my track, right? And a lot of the kids that were part of this group were like, I don't think I want to be a teacher, right? But we wanted to just say this is, you might at some point, right? And this is another option. And so we heard from the students, they did a panel, I think it was a panel of the BASO students and then a panel of professors, bilingual professors. Again, really building on the power of you are becoming bilingual young adults. So don't ever let that be lessened by anyone, right? You are learning another language, and that is powerful. And we, of course, did a tour of UT, and that was fun. Got to see some of the landmarks and things. So that was one of our. So we did ACC, UT, and then they did Texas State on their own. I have to say, Dr. Salaya, he'll be proud of me for saying this. He is an A&M graduate. He got his doctorate at A&M. So he, like, every time we talked about college visits, he's like, "What about A&M? What about A&M? I can make it happen." And you know, it didn't. It was easier to go to these, you know, to local. But maybe this year, I told him, maybe we'll figure it out this year. We'll try to make it happen. So, yeah, college visits. So, the end of the year, we created an empowerment conference. This was 100% student-led. And so, as Janeth shared, that like messy or, you know, very organic process, this was like really, like at the end, I was like, are we doing this? Is this right? Is this gonna happen? But we managed, you know, the kids, so they had, we organized them initially to help them think about what are all the areas of creating a conference. Again, Dr. Zelaya was a great resource because he does motivational speeches. He does a lot of like conference planning at A&M. He does a lot of stuff with the students there. And so he had a lot of like knowledge of like what do we want to think about. And so with his knowledge and then my kind of like organization, I was like, okay, these are the groups that we're going to. So we had a marketing group, we had a welcome group, we had decorations, that was probably marketing, right? We had just various committees, and then gave them some guiding questions and really helped them to think through. So we had a couple of days of planning. And basically, it was essentially, we had a resource fair with our partners. So remember that we had worked with ACC, we had worked with UT, they had gone to Texas State. We had our AISD team, so we had our early college and PTech team, our AISD CTE team. So all of those folks came in, and we had in the middle of the mall area there at Northeast where International is, we had our different partners that had tables. And so our students some of them were assigned as the guide. And so they would take the students around the different tables and talk to them about what they had learned at those different places. And then let those students, you know, of course everybody brings their swag and their stuff and they share, you know, information. And so, so that was an opportunity for the students that had not been part of this group. Because remember, it was about 30 students. I think by the time we were done, there were probably about 23 students, 25 students. So we did lose a few throughout that process that they said, like, I don't know if this is for me, I don't think I want to do it. And so, you know, we allowed that flexibility. So again, the students were leading. They were leading this and guiding and facilitating. They were welcoming our visitors as they came in. They were waiting in the front office to let them in. We had our decoration crew. And then we had students who were part of our student panel. We had a student panel room, and that was students who were sharing their experience and talking about to other students, right? So the idea was, this is a core group of students that we've taught all this information to. Now they need to impart it upon everybody else, right? How do they share it with the others? And so it was the entire campus. I think it was all 9th and 10th grade, right? So it wasn't just our 10th graders. And we had student presenters, and we actually have two of our presenters here today, and so they're going to share a little bit with you as soon as I stop talking, which I need to do soon. So it was, again, at the end of this, the kids were really like kind of a little bit like, what are we doing, you know? And we didn't really know what we were doing, honestly, but we knew we wanted to do this. And then when it was over, the feeling of jubilation and success was amazing. So much so that everyone has said, we're doing this again. It has to happen, and how do we do it for more people? So we'll see what happens this year, but definitely something that we want to continue. So our students, again, they you know, all of them have gone off to their comprehensive campuses. Many are still at Northeast, that's their home campus. Some have gone to other high schools, but they really wanted to stay connected. So that's our job, right? As the adults, how do we make that happen? And they see this as just the beginning. They wanted to know how they could learn more and get more involved in their community. So that service learning piece was a really big piece for the students, as Janeth shared. It was something that they wanted to do, so recognizing that opportunity. But I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to allow Janeth to introduce our students and give them an opportunity to talk.
Yeah, so part of the conference was, they were kind of shifting around. One of the groups was our keynote presenters, which were student leaders at our campus. And they talked to the students about their experience and kind of gave them some wisdom. But I'm going to let them explain that to you. So Alexa and Schneider, if y'all would come up here, please. And they're going to share a little bit.
So just share a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself first.
Yes. Hi, my name is Fernandez. I'm from Mexico, and I was in the. We changed the name, right? It's not the Empowerment Academy anymore.
Empowerment Academy, yes.
Okay, in the Empowerment Academy last year, and I'm a former student from IHS, International High School.
Muy buenos días, espero que se encuentren bien. Mi nombre es Schneider Gutiérrez y vengo de Venezuela y ahorita en este momento estoy estudiando en la escuela Northeast Early College. Y el año pasado pues estuve en el programa de Empowerment Academy y estuve estudiando en la escuela internacional.
So this is Schneider. He's from Venezuela, and they're both attending Northeast, so they're still really on the same campus, just part of Northeast Early College High School. And he was also part of the Empowerment Academy and IHS.
So share a little bit about what you learned or you took away from being a part of this program.
I really liked the program because some of my context before coming to the United States was like I got kicked out of school because a lot of things happened there, but I got kicked out because of hate, because I'm part of the LGBT community. So when I came here, I was running away from Mexico, and when I came here, I was like, okay, all my life my goals were like college. I want to have a career. I want to get where my parents didn't because of their own stuff. So when I got here, that was the goal. But when I got here, I was just so overwhelmed about the language, that I didn't know how school works here. So in that moment, the Empowerment Academy really empowered me and gave me like the information that I needed. Because some of the things that I really liked in the Empowerment Academy that happened in the Empowerment Academy were like when they brought some students that graduated from high school and went to college. Because like seeing my parents, they didn't graduate college, they didn't graduate high school. So I was thinking like if they couldn't do it in Mexico, why could I here with like the barrier of like the language and money and how am I gonna do it? And I was really down because of that, but seeing the examples of other people that did graduate and had some experiences like mine really empowered me, really changed that in my brain, because I wasn't thinking about giving up, but I was like really down. I wasn't like paying that much attention to my classes, so like, why? It's not worth it, because I'm not gonna be able to do it.
¿Cuál es tu parte y cómo fue tu experiencia en el programa?
Sí, al principio fue un poco extraño porque no sabía muy bien sobre qué se trataba o cómo era el proyecto, porque es como que nos agarraron a todos y entramos de repente en el salón y fue raro porque como que ¿qué hacemos aquí? Y pues el primer día como que estábamos todos perdidos, pero poco a poco nos fueron explicando que el propósito del programa era como enseñarnos que podíamos salir adelante. Y pues fue muy lindo porque todos como que compartimos la misma historia, todos venimos de lugares distintos, pero al fin y al cabo todos tenemos la misma meta, que es llegar y tener un buen futuro, una buena vida. Y pues el propósito del programa fue como enseñarnos que todo es posible y que podemos llegar a salir adelante con esfuerzo, y que a pesar de pertenecer a otro lugar, pues sí tenemos oportunidades de salir adelante. Y pues fue muy lindo que nos llevaran a visitar el ACC o la Universidad de Texas, porque fue como que en ese momento me sentí que sí podía llegar ahí. Nunca había visto una universidad en mi vida y en el momento en el que llegué y la vi, yo como que, wow, esto es increíble, es enorme, es muy bonito. Y pues me dije a mí mismo que pues, si me esforzaba, podía llegar a estar allí. Y fue una experiencia que pues fue agradable y la desearía que le pasara a alguien más que también pudiera entrar en un programa parecido y que puedan sentir que también pueden llegar a ser alguien en la vida, que le den esa esperanza de decir, wow, yo quiero estar aquí, yo quiero llegar aquí, yo quiero salir adelante. Y pues el grupo fue algo como que todos nos sentíamos uno porque todos compartíamos lo mismo, algunos pueden tener una historia diferente. Por ejemplo, para llegar de Venezuela acá fue como fueron 5 meses, era un viaje de 8 países por tierra y fue difícil. Y cuando el doctor Zelaya llegó y contó su historia y nos demostró a todos que podíamos salir adelante a pesar de que haya dificultades en el camino, fue algo que como que nos dio esperanza y siento que nos dio esperanza a todo el grupo de poder llegar y salir adelante y fue algo muy lindo. Gracias por su atención.
So Schneider shared that initially, just like we shared, that he kind of was like, the students were like, what are we doing? We just grabbed this and now we're in this group and we don't really know what the purpose is, right? And then eventually it became clear, right, that it was to begin to think about their future and that there were lots of options for them. And through that process, really listening to Dr. Solaya, who, again, I encourage you to look him up on. He's got some TED Talks, and he has a TED Talk, and he's got some other stuff that's out there. So his story coming from Honduras is pretty, you know, he went through some very extreme moments in his life, and he shares those with the students. But he says, no, look at me, I'm a doctor, right? I did it, and I've changed the trajectory of my family through education. And so sharing that with students who have just come here, right? They're only here in the last 2 years. To hear that, to recognize, yes, I can too, right? To see themselves and recognize that it is possible. I don't know, did I capture everything?
I think so, yeah. Okay, second question. So what is something you learned that will help you in the future? Algo que aprendiste que te va a ayudar en el futuro.
Pues creo que nos enseñaron mucho sobre el liderazgo y que también tenemos que poner de nuestra parte para esforzarnos y lograr cosas, porque nos pusieron a hacer varios trabajos en equipo y nos dijeron que pues eso nos ayudaría y que el esfuerzo de poder tener el liderazgo de decir vamos a cambiar algo es algo que nos va a ayudar en el futuro. Y pues siempre nos inculcaron eso en el grupo y dijeron que, o sea, que el liderazgo es algo que nos va a ayudar en la vida porque nos ayuda a tomar decisiones y pues nos puede ayudar más adelante en nuestras carreras o en lo que queramos hacer en el futuro. Eso es todo.
So leadership, right, was a big lesson, and really thinking about the future and what can be the future through, you know, really understanding. And we did do a lot of group work and a lot of certainly the conference was a big, you know, at first, again, it's painful to try to figure out like how are we going to make this all work, and the students really pulled through. And again, I'll just say that these were our presenters. These were our keynote presenters for our conference. These 2 young people right here, and they were able to share, you know, their experiences with the other students. I'm gonna stop talking. Alex, you got it.
Something that I learned during the Permanent Academy that I really like and I want to keep is they teach me how to advocate for myself, because that's something really hard to do when you don't know the language and you don't know the right people. So they make us like talk, write a lot about our stories, and I learned that one people can do change a lot. I really enjoy when we talk with students, because like you want to help other people, like I want to help other people, but I didn't know that telling my story and what like helps me can help other people. So advocate for myself and that my story is powerful and that can help people. I learned that, and honestly I didn't know, because like sometimes I used to talk with teachers or with persons and telling them my story, and I was like, man, I don't want to say this is sad. But then I learned that other people got stories like mine, and that see that I'm still standing and I'm still like trying to do my best, and I think that encourage people to also do it. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to share?
well, I didn't know that I was going to talk with adults. I thought it was going to be like last time, and I was going to talk with students, so I prefer to talk with students. So if y'all have any questions that like y'all want to like to know how to take this stuff, and y'all, I can answer. You can answer questions. So any questions?
Hi, how can Austin ISD support students who have experiences like y'all do? Because this is a really special experience for the students who are part of it, and so how can we expand on that support?
Okay, I think the information, like share more information with students, like have papers prepared for like, or talk with students who doesn't know anything about schools here, because like I didn't know about how important credits are, or the classes that I can take like in ACC and in, what was the name of the school that is the case?
Oh, like CT, I mean, Clifton?
Clifton, I didn't know Clifton. I didn't know anything when I came, so information is very powerful. And also about like, I also didn't know that you can go to college without papers. Share that information, because I have talked with a lot of friends that are like, well, I'm not gonna come to school next year, because why if I don't have papers? Like, I'm not gonna get anywhere. So share that information.
Question?
No, yo solamente le quería pedir las gracias por compartir sus cuentos, porque como administradora de primaria, los niños no entienden que las historias de ellos no solamente son solamente para ellos. Y si ustedes siguen compartiendo sus historias, les quiero dar el apoyo que sigan compartiendo sus historias, porque niños pequeños como los que llegan con nosotros no creen que están solos. Y ustedes dándole ese apoyo, que ellos no están solos. Entonces solamente les quería decir gracias por eso.
Me habían preguntado si hay algo que el distrito puede hacer para ayudar a los estudiantes como ustedes. ¿Hay algo que quieres compartir?
No, yo creo que Alex, con información es como que nosotros no veíamos más allá de la high school. Y después de como que nos compartieron toda esa información y nos llevaron a experimentar cosas nuevas, como que llegó esa inspiración de decir si quiero llegar ahí. O sea, es como información y darle a conocer lo que hay más adelante de lo que tienen frente a sus ojos. O sea, que hay un camino más allá del high school que puede ayudar mucho a que quieran llegar a ese lugar.
He said that information, but also that it's hard for them to see beyond high school. And so exposing them to that life, that experience, those environments.
Another question.
Oh, I was gonna ask what ideas you might have to do like something like what you guys have at other high schools. So I'm at Travis High School and I know we receive students from international. ¿Qué ideas tienen para cómo podemos implementar algo parecido en otras escuelas? Pues yo estoy en Travis y tenemos estudiantes que vienen de la internacional.
¿Cómo implementarlo? La verdad, no sé.
So I might be able to talk a little bit about, from the district level, kind of things that we've thought about. I'm not going to say I have the answer because I don't at this point. But I think, are we done with this? Yeah.
¿Cómo los convencieron a que participaran en el programa al inicio? How did they convince you to participate in the program from the beginning on?
We didn't. We forced them.
And it was
The
like,
baleadas.
yeah, they got a lot of Honduran food, right? And, so that felt the community.
But for the speaking, y'all,
Yeah.
what convinced y'all to be the speakers?
Oh, to be the speakers. Well, I think they didn't convince me because I love to talk with people. Stand in front of people and try to help them with the information that I can provide. So I feel something that encouraged me to do it was that I was feeling like I was in a community, in a really close one. Because yeah, they were giving us information, but they also were joking with us and being friends with us and asking us how we were, really waiting for the answer. So
¿Cómo te convencieron a hablar?
La verdad no, en el momento como que cuando me ofrecieron y me dijeron que si quería entrar a ser speaker, como que no sentía que podía hablar así enfrente de la gente ni nada por el estilo. Pero al final como que me puse a pensar y dije que quería compartir mi experiencia, lo que viví en el grupo y que como en ese momento íbamos a hablar con toda la escuela y quería, como solo fuimos un número pequeño de estudiantes los que participamos en el grupo, pues quería compartirle mi experiencia a toda la escuela porque toda la escuela iba a pasar de salón en salón y al final iban a llegar a nosotros y era como que, ok, ellos no vivieron esto, pero quiero que cuando yo hable como que sientan un poco de la experiencia que yo viví y fue algo que me motivó a pues hablar y querer expresar lo que yo viví en ese momento.
So at first he really didn't want to. He didn't think that that was something he would want to do. But after he realized his story was important and he wanted to be able to share it with other people and the experiences of the program.
yeah, and I think we both share that we have friends that we care a lot about, and some of them are I don't have any money and I cannot, I don't have papers, and we knew that it was possible. So we wanted to share that information with our friends, and we were I want my friend to listen to this information, so I want to provide it because that way they're gonna listen.
Thank you. Gracias.
So I want to just share a little bit about our next steps. So you can see, right, the very first question is how can we continue and expand our work to other campuses? Because you're exactly right. While we have a concentration of our high school students at International High School, we know that there are other high schools in our district that are also, because International High School is a school of choice, right? So students they're not required to go there. And so some students choose to stay at their home campus. So that is definitely the challenge is kind of in front of us, trying to figure out. One thing that we are doing to continue the work at International High School is it has become a course. So those 7 days that we pulled students out, we were pulling them out of class. So you can imagine the disruptions to instruction, but it was valuable enough, and luckily the principal recognized the value and she stood behind it and said, no, we're doing this. And but we knew that that's not sustainable. And so we created a course. There is a course out there, I'll just share, I know some of you that are in the bilingual world, there's a course, it's a new innovative course, you have to get board approval, it's called newcomer, it's a newcomer course. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's a course, so we don't currently have that in Austin ISD, so what we've done is we've made it an independent study course for English. So the kids, and again, same kind of process, identifying the students, making sure it works in their schedule, because then that becomes the other piece, right? Does it work for their schedule? It's a single class. It's one of the teachers that was part of the program last year. He's teaching it. And he and I have been meeting regularly to try to like really just think through what does this curriculum look like. We have the resources we used last year, so we're definitely leaning into that. Dr. Zelaya is continuing to work with us, and he's going to help us kind of think through a scope and sequence. But it's very organic. That's the way we do things. We want it, because again, we want it to be very student-centered, and we don't want it to be so, but that is a possibility for how do we expand it across campuses, right? At those campuses that have other students, that have large numbers, and they're seeing the need to do something similar, is to offer this course. It's an independent study course. I think, the other piece that we really want to build on is the parent partnership. We had one parent meeting. I felt like I really wanted more, and I know that our community wanted more. So I'm hoping that we can build that piece stronger at IHS so that we can begin to think about what does that look like. And then how do we follow the students and make sure that they're supported? So now, our students that are at Northeast, that's an easy, right? Like they're right there with us with the IHS, so it's easier to kind of access and make sure. But what about the other students that have gone to Travis or Navarro? That's typically a lot of LBJ. A lot of our students kind of go into those campuses, and others, right? Any of our high schools. How do we support them, and how do we continue that community? And so I don't know that I have an answer, or that we have an answer for that at this point, but it's definitely something that we're thinking on and trying to figure out. Is it an after-school program, or is it some kind of like committee district-wide, like similar we have in Austin ISD, we have our student equity committee, right? Like, does it become a student newcomer, empowerment, I don't know. But those are all the things that are in my head. And so I'd like us to create a system so that if I leave, somebody else can continue the work, right? Because it's good work. You can see from the students' response, and definitely we saw a lot of good things come out of it. And so that's really where we are. I don't know, I think we're almost done. I think we are done. So I was going to allow questions, but if there are questions, certainly feel free to ask them. But we are at the end of our session.